Hello and welcome to Thoughts on Man Who Dresses Up as a Bat and Punches People versus Man Who Dresses Up like some sort of Jesus figure and punches people. That was a good intro, wasn't it? Well, okay, I guess he doesn't dress up like some kind of a Jesus figure because, he looks nothing like him. But, I mean, the cinematography is like, man, look at this guy. He totally looked like Jesus, and he totally is like Jesus, and everyone thinks he's Jesus. And, whoa, biblical connotations out the wazoo. That word was meant to be connotations, but I swallowed the sea. Not the ocean. Anyway, getting ahead of myself, getting behind myself. I basically forgot to mention it in the Man of Steel Thoughts On, which you should definitely go and listen to first if you haven't already, because this is basically a sequel to it. I'm going to be referring to that one and back to this one again. But there's so much Jesus imagery. In Man of Steel, there is literally a shot where Clark Kent is sat in church talking to the Father, and he's like next to the stained glass window with a picture of Jesus on it, and I tweeted about it and I was like, come on. But they were definitely doing that on purpose, because in this film they explored it some more, with people looking up to him and worshipping him, and then other people kind of calling him like a false god, and then, there were kind of like culty type people on both sides, whether they wanted to kill him and get rid of him, or whether they wanted to worship him, throw away all kinds of justice and law and just do whatever he said. But that's getting into the finer details, and I have not yet talked about my broad perception of this movie, nor my context, my personal context of it. So my personal context of it is, I think this is the first time I've rewatched this movie. It might be the second, so this might be my third watching, but I feel like I've seen this movie one time less than Man of Steel. Either way, it doesn't matter. I've seen this movie before, and I, like Man of Steel, have always really enjoyed this movie, and I think I still really enjoy this movie. Really quick, I should add that I watched the Ultimate Edition, which is basically the 3-hour-long director's cut, and I think that's the only version of the movie I have ever seen. I don't think I saw this in theatres. However, as with Man of Steel, there's something about it that I liked in my previous watch through of it that I didn't like so much in this watch through it. In Man of Steel, it was the action scenes, and I didn't really notice how badly the CGI was aging, and how weightless all of the combat seemed, and how everyone looked like rubber men flopping around. This movie, I think, didn't look quite so bad in that department. This movie, what I don't like quite so much is, I think, what most people didn't like quite so much about this movie, which was the portrayal of Lex Luthor. And I'm going to be honest, I actually quite enjoyed Lex Luthor the first time I watched this movie. I'm a sucker for a madman, but I think it was overindulgent, this one. I mean, like, if they had dialed it back just a bit, just a little bit, I think it would have been great. But it was like and then oh no, and then doubling back on what he's saying, and doing loops around in his mind, and then like doing these grand verbose statements and these metaphors and talking about his dad all the time. And it was just a bit like, have one or two lines of dialogue where you're not showing off how much of a nut job you are. Just one or two, especially since the original Lex Luthor is, I mean, I don't know, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not an expert. I haven't read loads of Superman comics, I haven't seen all the Superman films, but from what I can understand, Lex Luthor isn't like the Joker type level of madness in those depictions of him. He's more businessman, but obviously there's a tinge of madness to him because he wants to kill a god in a way, and that's definitely what they played on here. But I think they definitely ramped up the madness factor for him in this movie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what they did. That being said, I think Jesse Eisenberg still gave a pretty damn good performance. I just think the way the character was created and written, I think it should have been scaled back maybe just 20% on the madness front. Just have him, if you want to portray him as a mad genius, which is definitely what they were going for, maybe show some of the genius instead of just madness. Anyway, motivations. This movie has a big problem with motivations. The biggest problem is, how do you get Superman to fight Batman? They do a good job of showing how you get Batman to fight Superman. That's the whole, look what happened during Man of Steel, we can't have that happening again. What if Superman turns evil? We need to stop him. We need to get rid of him. Basically, that's why Batman wants to fight Superman. How do you get Superman to fight Batman instead of just holding him in place and being like, no, shut up, you idiot? This is what I'm doing. Okay, well, here's how you get him to fight Batman. First of all, we're going to spend a part of a movie having him naturally just like not be happy about the way Batman treats justice, and how Batman's kind of gone a little bit dark even for his standards after the apparent death of Robin. But that's not enough. All he does is threaten Batman and say, don't be Batman anymore. You can't do that anymore. And all that does is act as another reason for Batman to want to kill Superman. Superman, again, doesn't want to fight Batman, just kind of wants him to stop doing what he's doing. They had to do this whole contrived thing where he being Lex Luthor, kidnapped Superman's mother. And the biggest flaw in this movie, right, is, and I guess I'm jumping to the end here, or near the end, but the biggest flaw of this movie is the rallying point, which makes them stop fighting. Why did you say that name? The connecting tissue here is supposed to be that both of their mothers happen to be called Martha, and obviously Batman has daddy and mummy issues, Superman has mummy and daddy issues, Lex Luthor apparently has daddy issues. Everyone has parental issues in this version of the DC universe. It's kind of weird, but I think the thing that really makes it stand out, just how contrived that is when Batman is about to kill Superman, and Superman's going, "You have to save Martha," and like, he would say my mother. He would say my mother in that scenario, right? Why would he say Martha? If my dad was in danger and someone was about to murder me, and for some contrived reason the person who was about to murder me was also capable of saving my dad, I wouldn't say, "You have to save Nick," would I? I would say, "No, you have to save my fucking dad, mate. Alright, and while you're at it, can you not stand on my neck? It really hurts." I think that's the biggest why the fuck of this movie, but there's a few of them. There's a few why the fucks in this movie. On a separate and more personal note though, I forgot just how much Justice League setup there is in this movie. Like, all the stuff with them learning about the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman, the one I always forget. I thought all of that stuff was at the beginning of Justice League. So I guess I don't remember that much about Justice League, which is going to be interesting when I go and watch that at some point soon. I even thought, although if I thought about it more than 5 seconds I probably would have remembered, but I even thought the Batman flash forward future sequence where he's in the apocalyptic wasteland that evil Superman has created, I thought that was Justice League as well, but obviously it's not, because it furthers Batman's motivations. Oh my god, by the way, can we just talk about that for a second? So throughout the first half of this movie, Batman keeps having these dream sequences, and they're all like a reflection of his, soul and his fear. And a nice little audio touch, by the way, is every time one of those dreams begins, you hear the Terraformer from Man of Steel really faintly in the background, to kind of show that that's his trigger of his source of fear, and it's kind of like a PTSD dream scenario we're going into. But back to the topic at hand, the problem I have with the dream, the flash forward dream, is that it's supposed to be like a reflection of Batman's worst fears, right? What happens if Superman turns evil? But there's moments in that dream sequence to suggest that it's not just a dream, that it is prolepsis, that it's a flash forward to the future. And of course that is solidified by the appearance of a Flash when he kind of wakes up but doesn't wake up, and you see the Flash and he's like, you were right, Bruce. No, Superman's evil, Lois is the key. It's Lois, Lois dies and he turns evil. Wait, I'm too early, okay, lol, bye. And it's like, and then he wakes up again, and it's like, wait, how does that work then? Because that's not, as far as I'm aware, one of the Flash's powers. He can't just incite a flash forward future dream. Is what am I trying to say? Is the suggestion there that the Flash has just gone back in time and undone something, and so it wasn't a dream he was snapping out of, but the future he'd just got pulled back from? Because if so, they didn't show that very well. If not, Batman suddenly has psychic powers. What? Probably just a sci-fi timey-wimey, this is the result of a Flash trying to contact Batman from the future kind of a thing, but it bothers me. But what's cool about that is you got the Omega symbol on the ground at the start of that dream, and apparently that's something to do with an evil version of Superman in the comics, so there's stuff like that, which is like, oh hey, this might be real, because how would Batman know that? I also noticed a small detail in this film, when Superman in the dream sequence says to Bruce, "She was my world and you took her from me." Afterwards, when Lois saves him and then he goes to sacrifice himself to kill Doomsday. The final thing he says to her, I think it's the final thing, is, "You are my world, this is my world, you are my world." And I think that's just a little nod to the viewer to say, yeah, by the way, that dream sequence is still an issue, even though we're apparently killing off Superman. Nobody believes he's dead. Nobody. We'll get to that in a bit too. So yeah, I guess at this point I'm just going to go through the movie now, like kind of scrub through it and tell you what I thought about the kind of composition of the movie and the general A to B to C to Z. The movie opens with Batman's origin story told to us kind of quickly, although with a very nice score, I have to say. Hi, Amy Warner. But yeah, since we're not getting the Batman movie, this is as close as we're going to get. Although we are now getting the Batman movie, but that's a whole separate, different number wang. Although, I don't know, I haven't read up too much on that. If it's just like the Dick Grayson version of Batman and it's still the DC Extended Universe, I'd be totally down for that, because that's never happened in the live-action movies, but you know. We see his boots-on-the-ground perspective in Metropolis, which I think was really fucking cool. I'm really glad they did that, because they needed to explain why Batman felt the way he did about Superman, why he had this kind of prejudice, and it's because, as we see from his point of view, that scene where Zod is like lasering the inside of a building, there's no knowing that it's Zod doing that, and when Superman kind of comes out of the building, there's no knowing that, like, I guess he got punched out of the building or whatever. It just looks like he flew in there, blew up the place, and then flew out of it. And that also happened to be something I forgot, and I just remembered on the rewatch, one of Bruce Wayne's buildings, and it ended up killing one of his I guess employees, but probably one of his friends as well. So I think that was really cool. And then we've got this really weird convoluted plot in the Middle East, because of course it's the Middle East. Fucking Hollywood has a hard-on for stuff happening in the Middle East. But yeah, and it's kind of, in the end it turns out it's Lex Luthor trying to frame Superman for killing a whole bunch of people to save Lois, when actually all he does is kill one person to save Lois, which is fine apparently. There's also lots of things that could be solved if there weren't so many communication issues in this film. Like, Lois figures out that Superman's being framed long before he does, but she doesn't tell him because she's worried that he will get overprotective over her looking further into it. Like, don't you think this is something that you should maybe tell Clark so that he can be more personable to people and explain himself, instead of just being constantly aloof and making people fear him even more, allowing the people who are framing him to have even more room to operate? Maybe? Question mark? Plot. I know, plot. And of course this is the first thing that makes average Americans go, oh hey, that's an issue. If Superman could just go ahead and do something like this, that's an issue. It's Captain America Civil War is what it is, but it's movie 2 instead of movie, 12 or whatever. Sorry, I looked it up, it was movie 13. I was so close. Just get rid of the Incredible Hulk, and it is movie 12. Who cares about the Incredible Hulk? Nobody watched that one. Anyway, grab your coat, because suddenly we're off to Gotham, and we're seeing Batman, and it's like, whoa, it's the classic Batman in a house beating up a criminal, and the police finding him scene that's been done to death. But one thing that is kind of force-fed to us in this movie is just how mean he is now. Like, they've had him for 20 years, but now he's being mean. Except he was always mean, but now he's extra mean. It was an interesting choice to choose a Batman that's already done 20 years of Batmaning for this film, considering that Superman is fairly new. And it's interesting when you look at like a movie universe version of a comics, because they always introduce people at different times in different ways. Like, just look at the MCU versus the original Marvel comics, and you'll see characters have completely different entrances via different ways. Like, Spider-Man in the MCU is very much a Tony Stark kind of a tie-in character when he's introduced, and it's obviously that's not how it happens in the comics at all. I think the reason why they chose this Batman, although they've probably talked about it somewhere, but this is just my take because I haven't listened to them, is we've already seen Batman done in like his early years and him finding his footing and all of this, and one of the things that often tends to get less explored because of the nature of cinema and movies and new cinematic universes overlapping over old ones, is that we never get to see much of them when they're older, when they've been through the ringer, when they've had lots of traumatic experiences. And the Batman they settled on for this one was a brutal, kind of like super muscular Batman who has lost a Robin. It's very heavily implied, who has abandoned Wayne Manor, who has a very disillusioned Alfred who just can't be asked putting up with his shit anymore, who clearly has some sort of a drinking problem. Like, damn, this is a Batman who, I mean, he's straight out of A Dark Knight Returns. He quotes a line from The Dark Knight Returns in this movie. The whole, my parents taught me a different lesson, lying face down in the dirt. They told me that the world only makes sense if you force it to. That's like the cynical, nihilist, tragic Batman that exists in The Dark Knight Returns. And if you don't read comics, but you like Batman, go buy that comic. It's a one-off and it's phenomenal. And that comic has a very special place in my heart for other reasons about what was happening in my life when I was reading that comic as well. So, yeah, but go read it. That's largely the Batman this movie's Batman is based off of. Not quite as old as in The Dark Knight Returns, but that kind of a Batman all the same. Oh, and I've watched The Dark Knight Returns animated movie as well. It's good. It lacks a lot of the atmosphere that the original comic brings. I would recommend reading the comic over that. Back to the movie at hand though, more exposition happens. We learn that Clark Kent and Lois Lane be walking, and we learn that Bruce Wayne and Alfred be disagreeing. And yeah, it's very much a running theme of this movie of Bruce being like, I'm gonna go beat this guy up, and Alfred being like, or you could just ask him, and it's, I'm gonna go break into this place. Or maybe just go as Bruce Wayne, you have an invitation. We meet Lex Luthor, who, you know, I've already given my opinion about him. We learn that he is very interested in kryptonite and its ability to weaken Kryptonians, and, you know, the whole Lex Luthor thing. And he's in talks with government officials, and he's very disturbing in how he talks to them because he's a madman and he doesn't care about boundaries, and he forces a sweet into one of their mouths, and then later on he actually plays with a jar of piss metaphor and makes it real. Oh wow. Yeah, I'm not sold. I was apparently the first time I watched this movie, but not anymore. Again, just 20% less of the madness and we're good. I did like the scene at Lex Luthor's kind of party. I think the implication is that he had already figured out Batman and Superman's secret identities and had brought them together for the sole purpose of introducing them to each other. So that was kind of cool. Because of the whole scene, which is like a very big tap on the nose of, oh, I love bringing people together, and, you know. But we also meet, I'm blanking on her real name, Diana Prince, also known as Wonder Woman, and I love her. She's great. I love her. She's such a good character. Obviously, there's very little focus on her during this film to try and build up to the surprise, I thought she was with you scene, because obviously the majority of people who watch this film aren't going to know the name Diana Prince, and they're not going to realise until the end that she's Wonder Woman, so it's a pretty cool reveal, but I just like the whole aspect of her being very reluctant to fully help in this film. It looks like she's kind of torn between investigating and then also trying to be like, no, I don't do this anymore. She seems like someone who has lived through trauma, and I haven't seen Wonder Woman 84 yet, but based on the events of just Wonder Woman, it very much seems like she's like, you know, I don't do this anymore. And then when Doomsday shows up, she's like, fine. Anyway, then comes a lot of, oh, is Superman evil? Should he be evil? Is he political? All that kind of stuff happens. And then also the dream sequence, which I've discussed before as well, where Batman's like, oh no, what if Superman but evil? Have you ever heard of the self-fulfilling prophecy? And shortly after that, we get an action sequence, where Batman is trying to steal Lex Luthor's kryptonite thingamadoo that he's going to turn into a spear. And boy howdy, does that Batman sure kill a lot of people. Any other depiction of Batman would spend a decent amount of time discussing the morality of the fact that he's not stopping a criminal here, he's literally just stealing from someone else so that he can plot to murder somebody, which is not a very Batman thing to do. But in this movie, we skip go, we do not collect $100 or however Monopoly works, we just go straight to killing people and we don't even bat an eyelid at that. And like I said, this is an older, meaner, more traumatized Batman who has very likely lost a Robin to the Joker due to his restraint of killing people, and so it's probably like a choice that they made, that this is going to be a Batman that's further in his life and has decided that he needs to kill criminals, certain criminals anyway. But we don't get any of that messaging in the film. And just like in Man of Steel, actually, we don't get any kind of thought spared to the people that he ends up killing as collateral damage, or even straight up direct damage in some cases. And it's like, if this movie is focusing on the repercussions of Superman's collateral damage and how many people died, and whether it's his fault and whether it's safe to have him around, and that's one of Batman's leading motivations for trying to kill Superman, isn't it kind of weird to choose a Batman that has no qualms with killing people that he deems necessary to be killed? That seems like the wrong choice to me. Anyway, then Superman decides that, hey, maybe I should explain myself to people, and I'm going to go to this hearing thing and be like, yo, what's up, people? I'm Superman, and I'm not a bad guy, really. And then Lex Luthor is like, psych, fooled you, blows up the entire place, and Superman just leaves. I mean, he saves some people, because that's what he does, but then he just leaves. And in this cut, they give some time to the fact that Lois Lane is trying to get to Superman to warn him. Warn him? No, that's what she does at night. Warn him. I just meant Snuggles. I wasn't... Yeah, anyway. But she can't get to him in time. And I feel like that's something that was probably taken out of a theatrical version. Maybe I have seen a theatrical version. But either way, it explains a little bit more, doesn't it? And I did like the shot where she's desperately trying to, like, get his attention, but she's in the middle of a screaming crowd of people who are also trying to get his attention because he's Superman. Oh my god, we love Superman! Or in that particular crowd's case, oh my god, fuck you, Superman! But yeah, then the place blows up, and he looks really annoyed about being always seeing the worst of humanity, and then he flies off and walks up to a mountain and meets his ghost dad, who tells him that the spirit of Kansas is alive in him or some shit. I don't know. Can we agree that the ghost of his dad was a little weird? It was a little weird. It was a little weird. Anyway, then we get to towards the final act of a movie where what's his name again? Lex Luthor. That's his name, Christian. Come on, you're better than this. Lex Luthor enacts his master plan, and he goes, "I know how to make an invincible godlike being do my bidding." Emotional blackmail. Wait, is it emotional blackmail if he's holding his mother hostage, or is that just straight up blackmail? Maybe it's just straight up blackmail. And he's like, hey, if you don't kill Batman and prove to the world that you are evil and selfish, then I will kill your mother. And that's how I'm going to prove my point. And just in case that doesn't work, I've got a backup Doomsday abomination thing to kill you, because I really don't like you, it turns out. I just have a problem with you because I'm a poorly created character and didn't think, apparently, far enough ahead to think that if something can kill you, then it's probably stronger than you, and it's probably not a good thing to have around either, so my hatred of you would not be justifiable to kill you in that manner. I phrased that terribly, but I think you should probably be able to understand what I'm getting at there. Anyway, yeah, Doomsday, because it's a Zack Snyder's superhero movie, so of course it's going to have Doomsday in it. Like, you thought Lex Luthor was the big baddie? No, he's not going to make a giant land masses explode. Of course it's Doomsday, and thank God, man, because I do like these movies for that reason. I'm a sucker, as we spoke of before, for the big over-the-top shonen-style action sequences. But I'm jumping ahead. This movie is called Batman vs Superman, not Batman vs Doomsday, although you could argue that that would be more appropriate. One little nuance I did like, because I feel like I've been quite negative in this video, but again, I did like this movie, is when Superman saves Lois and he's like, oh, I have to go rescue my mother. No, he doesn't say that, does he? He says, he quotes something to her about not all good men stay good, or maybe I'm not good after all, and he's like, I'm gonna have to convince Bruce to help me, or kill him. And he does legitimately seem uncertain at that moment of what he might do to save his mother, to save the ones he loves, and obviously the whole basis of an evil Superman is built on a Superman that kind of loses it after his loved ones die, and how dangerous is it to have someone like that around who can do terrible things, and loves that fiercely, because obviously love is on the same side of, not the same side of a coin, is the same, oh my god, what's the fucking phrase? Love and hatred are two sides of the same coin. Why does anyone watch these videos? I do not eloquate myself very well at all. Anyway, they do make a bit of a show of Superman trying to reason with Batman, but he gives in to anger after Batman just says, no, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm just going to shoot you with bullets, which I know are going to do nothing. The whole thing's a bit dumb. But the fight scene in How Do You Tackle Batman vs Superman was done quite well, I think. Batman had this big old Lego-ass looking suit of armor, which meant that he could take a few hits from Superman. Not like fully powered punches, but kind of like backhanded slaps through buildings and stuff like that. And then, of course, he had the kryptonite tear gas, which eventually brought Superman down to a very punchable level. But I don't know, it seems kind of memeable, that shot where he's pinning Superman up against the wall and just punching him in the face over and over again. It doesn't seem like emotionally driven. It doesn't seem, I don't know, something about the way it's shot just seems goofy as fuck. But what I was trying to get at there is, I mean, they made a show of like, oh look, Superman tried to reason with Batman, but Batman kept pissing him off, so he attacked. But maybe that's an issue with Superman, right? Like, dude's invincible. I get that you're gonna piss him off by shooting him and stuff, but I don't know, I get that time was of the essence, but I don't know, man. There's scenes where they try to show that this Superman has a heart of gold, but then there's scenes where they seem to forget that, and not in a way that's like, oh, this guy has the capacity to be evil or anything like that. It just seems inconsistent. Anyway, Batman beats Superman because it's the least likely of the two outcomes, and therefore the more exciting one. Subversion of expectation hits you like a rock sometimes, and or maybe not in this case, and then the whole Martha scene happens, which I've already discussed, and then it's just time for Doomsday to happen. One of the things I noticed about this in the movie was that it was just like, oh, okay, we're friends now. I mean, it's like, anyway, cutting away to this other thing that's happening. Now Doomsday is here, and then we're like, oh shit, we gotta go deal with this guy. And it's like, okay. But the next 10 to 15 minutes, or however long it was, I didn't measure it, was just straight up shonen action stuff, and there was still some shots where it looks like people moved a bit weirdly, but not as many as in Man of Steel. And I enjoyed the wanton destruction because I'm Christian. Of course I enjoyed the wanton destruction. To anyone who doesn't know what my name is, I'm not making a religious comment there, my name is Christian. And then Superman sacrifices himself to kill Doomsday, and it's very emotional. Although, before we move past this fight, I will say when Batman says, oh, I've got to lead him somewhere, and then like he intentionally pisses Doomsday off and then, you know, leads him to Gotham, that's like maybe the most like convincing act of heroism I've seen so far in this movie, because they make a big deal out of the fact that, you know, Wonder Woman, superpowered individual, Superman, superpowered individual, Batman, definitely out of his league in this fight, and he's just stood there. So him, like, being the one to, like, lead Doomsday all the way to Gotham and put his life right in the firing line of that, is downright heroic, and I really enjoyed that aspect of this fight. Anyway, Superman and Doomsday stab each other and Superman dies. And I did not buy it for a second, even the first time that I watched it, because, come on, it's the second movie in the DC Extended Universe, and at this point we know you're setting up a bigger universe, because Wonder Woman's hit the picture, and we've learned about Flash and Cyborg and the other one that's a fish, and it's like, really? You're killing Superman this early? Like, we know you're going to kill Superman and bring him back because A, that's a Superman storyline from what I understand, and B, it's a comic book character, so they all do that. But really? Really? It doesn't hit. It's like, oh, look, he sacrificed himself for us. But even on my first thing of this movie, man, I was like, no, he didn't. I mean, he did, but like, the way they showed the dirt rising in the final frames of this movie off the coffin of like, oh, but he's still alive. A, that's dumb because that's not how he comes back to life, so that's just nothing. And B, it's just like, well, you can't have the gravitas of a dead Superman when everyone in that movie theatre knows that he is coming back in the next movie. In the next goddamn movie. Because we know that the next movie is Justice League. We know because you're setting up the Justice League. And you can't have a Justice League without Superman. So what are you doing? It was really dumb. It was so dumb. Oh my god, it was so dumb. And my biggest issue with these DC movies is that they did not know how to build a cinematic universe. They saw Marvel doing what Marvel were doing, and they went, we need to catch up, and they tried to make Endgame before Marvel did. Well, they didn't try to make Endgame. They tried to make Avengers, but they tried to do it in 3 movies, or I guess 4 movies, instead of, like, 6. Which doesn't sound too bad when I put it that way, but you know what I mean? Like, again, I haven't seen the Snyder Cut yet, but like, in Justice League, the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman, they just show up, and they do not have much of an introduction before the final act of a movie occurs, and it is a mess, and I think it's what killed the DC Extended Universe, if it does end up being killed. I don't know, we've still got a few movies out of it, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's what killed it for me. I still haven't seen Aquaman or Wonder Woman 84. But in closing, I guess, for Batman vs Superman, I like it a lot. It's a good film. I've kind of gone into the flaws here a lot, but I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed these characters. I enjoyed the portrayal of these characters. I enjoyed watching the plot unfold, as convoluted and overly complicated as it was. Like, it was good. I enjoyed it. Great movie. 3 hours long? Man, I hope Zack Snyder never releases a movie that long again. In all seriousness though, I didn't really notice those 3 hours going by. I was immersed in the movie, and this is a rewatch too, so it's not like I was watching it for the first time. So it's genuinely compelling. I think I have to put that stamp on it. So yes, still a Batman vs Superman apologist, with half an hour of caveats. Thank you for listening to them, and I guess I've got to go watch a 4-hour movie now, because from what I remember of Wonder Woman, it's a good movie, but it's not particularly relevant to Justice League. So is it? I don't remember. Maybe it is. Maybe it sets up. Does it set up Steppenwolf? I don't know. There's going to be another movie thing, another thoughts on a movie after this, and it's either going to be a 2-hour movie or a 4-hour movie. So tune in to find out which. Ta-ra!